Welcome students to my class of English Literature, BA Part 2, Paper 1, Section A. We are continuing with P.V. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, and we studied in the last two lessons about Shelley, who is considered a revolutionary poet, a romantic poet, and his ideas can be clearly seen in his poem Ode to the West Wind. Shelley, in this ode, appeals to the west wind to whom the poem is dedicated, because an ode is a dedication to something, and here the poet addresses to the west wind to destroy everything that is old and defunct and plant new democratic liberal norms and ideals in the English society, which is the reflection of his innermost ideals. So, through this poem, Shelley wants the people of the society to realize that they are shackled in the chains of materialistic pursuits and how they can bring freedom and calmness in their lives. And if you recall, in our last two lessons, and in the lesson 2 where we studied about in detail about Canto 1, the poem, as you will remember, is divided into 5 cantos. Each canto is uh, a part consisting of 14 lines stanza of a sonnet. And in the first canto, we read how Shelley finds west wind as a fierce power of change and rebirth. So, according to Shelley, the west wind drives away the seeds and scatters them in cold and low places where they grow into plants after some time. And Shelley how conceives of the west wind as a destroyer and a preserver, because it destroys a number of things, uproots trees, demolishes old buildings because of its fierce power. But at the same time, and paradoxically, it preserves new life by scattering the seeds which we read about in the first canto and nourishing the plants and by causing the rainfall. So, this is how Shelley describes this force or the power of the west wind in Canto 1. So, in today's lesson, we will move further and read in detail Canto 2. So, let us read it aloud. Thou on whose stream, mid the steep sky's commotion, loose clouds like earth's decaying leaves are shed, shook from the tangled boughs of heaven and ocean, angels of rain and lightning, there are spread on the blue surface of thine airy surge, like the bright hair uplifted from the head of some fierce Mænad, even from the dim verge of the horizon to the zenith's height, the locks of the approaching storm, thou dirge of the dying year, to which this closing night will be the dome of a vast sepulchre, vaulted with all thy congregated might, of vapours from whose solid atmosphere black rain and fire and hail will burst, O hear. So you find that again, like Canto 1, the rhyme scheme which follows is the same, where the last word of the first line rhymes with the last word of the third line. And here in this canto, we find that Shelley describes the activities of the west wind in the sky. Like in the last canto, he described the activity of the wind and its effect on the plants and the trees. The west wind sweeps off the clouds collected in the sky. And here the wind is compared to a stream of water on whose current the detached clouds float. So, as you can again focus on these few lines. Thou on whose stream, mid the steep sky's commotion, loose clouds like earth's decaying leaves. So, how these clouds are compared to the leaves, as if they are falling from the trees, shook from the tangled boughs, so the branches of heaven and ocean. So, how beautifully Shelley compares and contrasts the different aspects of nature. So, when the wind moves, the entire atmosphere is violently disturbed. Then the clouds are all separated like the leaves detached from their trees. And the poet calls the clouds as the leaves of heaven and ocean. Heaven is mentioned because the clouds that float in the upper air, the ocean because clouds are formed of the vapors collected on the sea coast. So, this we all understand as part of our knowledge of geography. The clouds bring rain and lightning, which we come to know from the next few lines. Angels of rain and lightning, there are spread on the blue surface of thine airy surge. So, angels means the clouds are the messengers. When we see dark clouds in the sky, we know that it's about to rain. And lightning and rain both are the characteristic features of the clouds. And they are, where are the clouds spread? On the blue surface of thine means your, means referring to the west wind, airy surge. So, the movement of the wind in the sky when it's about to rain. So, here Shelley is talking about the clouds because they bring rain and lightning, so they are their harbinger. So, the west wind blows at first though through a blue sky, and soon the vapors and clouds gather on the horizon and form a kind of dome into the sky, which we'll read further in the lines. So you can see how picturesquely Shelley talks about the activities that take place in the sky um, related to the clouds, and as he did in Canto 1 about the leaves. So, storms are compared to angels that bring the rain with them, and flashes of light are compared to the bright hair of a Greek goddess Menad, which we'll read further in the lines further. Of some fierce Menad, even from the dim verge of the horizon to the zenith's height, the locks of the approaching storm. So, Menad refers to a female devotee of Bacchus, that is the Greek god of wine. And zenith is the highest point, that is the point of sky immediately overhead. The locks, which refers to the hair, here refers to the storm, the uplifted hair of the storm which is approaching. So, how we will understand these lines? Storms are compared to angels that bring the rain with them. They announce their arrival by fiery flashes of lightning, which reach up into the sky from the ocean at the horizon. And these flashes of light are compared to the hair of this Meniad, that is the Greek myth connected with Meniad, that is the spirit which attends on the Greek god of wine, which is called Dionysius. So, brilliant colors and violent winds emphasize the passionate and intense nature of the poet. And the storm in the sky appears to blow over the sky all around. And these storms look like the disheveled hair of some fierce and mad nymph attendant on Bacchus. That is, it refers to the Meniad. Of the dying year, to which this closing night will be the dome of a vast sepulchre vaulted with all thy congregated might. So here the poet refers to the year that is ending, that is in the dying body. The west wind is its death song. The sky on which the night is closing is the dome of the huge tomb in which the dead body of the year is to be buried, because The word is sepulchre is meaning the tomb. So, spirits and ghosts in this poem are the supernatural elements that repeatedly appear, which might suggest the possibility of a world beyond the world in which we live. And here the poet compares the west wind to a funeral or the death song because it is sung at the death of a year, the closing of the year, and says the night will become a dome erected over the year's tomb with all the winds gathered might. And from that dome created in the sky will come black rain, fire, and hail. So, again, here the poet asks the west wind to continue to listen to what he has to say when he says towards the end of vapors from whose solid atmosphere black rain and fire and hail will burst, O hear. So, we find that Shelley, like the other romantic poet, is inspired by nature and recognizes that nature's power is not wholly positive because nature destroys as often as it creates or inspires. And here, like other romantic poets and pre romantic poets, Shelley wants to highlight the effect of industrialization. So we find that in Canto 2, like in Canto 1, Shelley continues to talk about the effect of the west wind. The west wind of autumn brings winter with it, which is a sign of death. But after every winter, there is spring, which will be the conclusion of this poem. And with this, we come to the end of Canto 2, and in our next class, we will study in detail Canto 3. Thank you.